will they or will we? I'll explain that later in the sermon, okay? Will they or will we? I'll be using Nehemiah chapter 4, 1 through 9 throughout the sermon. I like the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was living in captivity, and he was actually serving in the Shushan palace as a cupbearer. You might be saying, what's a cupbearer? Well, a cupbearer, they had to taste the food and taste the wine before the king ate or drank. Of course, naturally, he wanted to be in good favor with the cupbearer because the cupbearer could sure mess him up, couldn't he? I don't imagine there's a lot of people wanting that job because if someone's trying to poison the king, they would actually be poisoning the cupbearer. So there's probably not a long list of people in that line that said, I want that job, I want that job. No, sirree. I think about the guy on TV that's called Mike Rowe. Remember him? He's always showing different kinds of jobs, and they're all kind of bad jobs, dirty jobs. And if he was living at that time, he probably would interview this Nehemiah and say, why in the world would you want a job like that? There are good jobs, there are bad jobs, but this was a bad job. Now, one day Nehemiah was in the palace, and as he saw some people there back from his home, he's in captivity there, and so he saw some people back home, and he said, how are things going back home? He wanted to know. And so they told him. Back then, that's how you found out things. You had to ask people because they didn't have what we have today. We've got, of course, television news and radio news and telephones and computers. And let's say if you want to get the news out, tell a woman. But anyway, that's one way we get the news out back then is to really ask, how are things going back home? And they told him. And what he heard, I'm sure that he was thinking, I wish I had not asked that question. Because they had nothing but bad news to share with him about how things were going back home, you know. And so it makes me think of a woman that went to a lawyer one day, and she says, I want a divorce from my husband. And he said, well, I need to ask you some questions first. And he said, okay. She said, okay. He said, let's start off with a few questions, like what? She asked, well, do you have any grounds? And he said, yes. She said, yes, we have about 5 acres in the country. And no, he said, do you have a garage? She said, yeah, we have a garage and a storage shed. Let me ask you another different question. Do you have any complaints about him? Like what? Well, does he beat you up in the morning time? No, I'm up at least an hour before him every day. Well, what about your role here? Do you really ever wake up grouchy? Does he ever wake up grouchy? No. When he's in a bad mood, I just let him sleep. Exasperated, the attorney finally asked, well, what exactly do you want to get a divorce for? And she said, well, the guy just cannot communicate. Kind of had that backwards, did you? Nehemiah asked the question, well, how are things going back home? And I'm sure he might have said, man, I wish I not have asked that question because I won't sleep good tonight at all. Look in verse 1 through verse 3. And they said unto me, the remnant are left of the captivity there in the province in a great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Now, he was a Jew from Jerusalem, and this was devastating news. How would you like to be away from your home and find out that everything's been torn up, destroyed, stuff like that? It would be bad, wouldn't it? So let me ask you some questions. What would be some bad news for us? Devastating news. Well, it would be bad to hear someone death of a loved one, wouldn't it? Sure. I heard just this past week about a friend that actually went to our Christian school, And he died, and I thought, my, I think he's some kin to Ronnie, Bo. And I was sad. I said, man, oh man, I sure hate to hear that, because I knew the whole family. It would be bad news to hear of a loved one that's passed away. It would be bad news if you worked for a company for years and years and years, and you found out they fixed to close down, and you have no job. That would be bad news, wouldn't it? It would be bad news to go to the doctor. The doctor says you got terminal cancer. That would be bad news, wouldn't you? So we don't like to hear bad news. We don't like to hear it. And what he heard was bad, bad news. And it ranked among all the things that you could think of as being bad. It really did. Now, I'm sure, like I said, he wished he had not asked that question. Hey, fellas, how are things going back home? Oh, man, not good. Man, it's devastating. Man, the walls have been torn down. The gates have been burnt. My goodness, everything's just demolished there. Yeah, that's the thing. Now, I want to ask you some questions, okay? And then we're going to ask some questions that Nehemiah was asked. Let me ask you this here. Do you love this church? You see, we sometimes say, well, yeah, I love my church. Do you love this church? Do you pray for this church? Do you pray for the deacons? Do you pray for the pastor and the teachers? Do you pray for lost souls to be saved? Do you invite people to attend? Do you support the church with your attendance and giving? I hope that you can answer all those questions and say yes, yes, yes. And I think this crowd here tonight that we have probably can say that. Because everybody can say, oh, I love my church. I love my church. And like Nehemiah asked the question, we asked, do you love your church? Oh, yes, I love my church. But really, really, do you really do that? I think this crowd tonight really does. God bless you, and I appreciate your faithfulness, and I appreciate your support in every area of the church. Yes, sir. Now, Nehemiah asked the question, how are things going? Well, not good, not good. Now, anybody can say, oh, I love my church, I love the Lord, I love this and I love that. Anybody can say that, but you see, love is a word. It can be only a word, and that's all it is, or just a word. There's thousands, millions of words, and it's just one word. Oh, yes, I love the Lord. Oh, yes, I love my hometown. I love this and I love that, and so on. I know a fellow that he's no longer living today, but he used to boast about the fact that he never cried over anything. And I believe him. When his parents died, he did not shed one tear. Not one tear. When his best friend died, he did not shed one tear. When his two brothers died, he did not shed one tear. Yeah. You see, love is a word, but it means something. It means a heartfelt. I feel for this. I have feelings for this. It's love. And Nehemiah loved his hometown. He loved what God had done, how God had blessed them. And now the whole thing has been destroyed. It's like we say, I love our church, and then all of a sudden it's all burnt down. It would be devastating to us. We love our church. We love this. We love that. Love is not just a word. Love is a heartfelt feeling. You feel for something or you feel for someone. And some people are incapable of feeling for anything in their lives. I think about one time we had a barbecue at the church, and there's about 4 or 5 of us guys stayed up during the night and cooked the barbecue. And one fellow said, you know, I'm going to have to move pretty soon, my job, I'm going to have to move. And he said, I really hate that because I love my church, I don't want to leave my church. And one guy said to him, well, you can always find another church. Wait a minute. He just got through saying, I have a heart feeling for my church. I love my church. And this guy said, you can always find another one. You see, the attitude today, the world that we live in is like this right here. You can always find another job. Hey, you can always find another wife. You can always find another husband. Yeah, you know, you can always find another car. But if you really love something, it's a heartfelt thing. It's not just a word. It's something you really feel in your heart, you see. You really do. Now, some Christians' attitude is you can always join another church. You can move, you know, you don't have to, you just always find another church. When you love something, you love something. It's hard. It's in your heart. It's like my wife. I could say I love my wife. That's words. But if I really love her like I'm supposed to, I have a heartfelt for her. My heart is heavy for her. It is a heartfelt thing. And Nehemiah, I'm trying to express to you, he loved Jerusalem. He had just heard that everything had been burnt down, torn down, messed up. And he said, oh my goodness. And it was bad news, you see. So he got this news. And the Bible says, and it came to pass when I heard those words that I sat down and I wept and I mourned certain days. I fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Notice here, 5 things. He said it was so devastating, I had to sit down. You ever get kind of news like that? It's so bad you got to find some place to just sit down. He said, I sat down. Also, look here, he said, not only that, he said, I wept. Hey, some people say a man won't cry. A man will cry if he really has a heart felt for something. I don't care if he really has a heart felt for anything or anyone, he will weep. He said, I sat down and I began to cry. Look what else he said. He said, I mourned certain days. He said, this thing bothered me so bad I couldn't get over it. Day after day, I mourned over what I just heard. And then he said, I fasted and I prayed to the God of heaven. This was devastating news to Nehemiah. I'm trying to make a point here, and I'm trying to make you understand, if you really love something, there's a heartfelt feeling, and my friend, you just can't get over it. It just stays with you. Yeah. He wept. He mourned certain days. He fasted. He prayed. He had to sit down. Now notice here, this is disturbing news. Evidently, Nehemiah had a smile on his face most of the time. As a cupbearer, he'd go before the king every day. Before the king would drink wine or eat and take of it and taste it, make sure it was safe for the king. And evidently, he had a smile on his face. I think with a job like that, I'd have a hard time having a smile on my face myself. But he evidently had a smile. Why you say that, preacher? Well, because one day he went in there, after this happened, he got the news. He had a frown on his face. And the king says, what in the world's wrong with you today? Where's that smile? Where's that joy? Where's this life that you have about you? Where is it at? Look here in verse 2. Wherefore the king said unto me, why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Heartfelt. Sorrow of heart. And then we find here in verse 3 through 5, he said, let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad? With the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? He said, why shouldn't I be sad? I got some terrible news. And he said, the fact is, I got such terrible news. He said that my father's sepulchre has been torn up. Everything's been burnt. I am so sad. It said, then the king said unto him, for what doest thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven, and I said unto the king, if it please the king, and if thy servant have favor in thy sight, and thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchre, that I may build it. It's been torn down. And King, all I ask is if it be your will that you let me go back and then rebuild what's been torn down. My heart is sad. And the king said, okay. And not only did the king give him permission to go back, the king also gave him provisions to help rebuild the wall. So they had a good relationship, didn't they? Now listen, anytime you do something for the Lord, you can always mark it down. The devil is going to always be fighting. Last night, I think most of you probably heard about the banquet that they had in the Garden Hotel, and that the man is trying to get in there to shoot, most likely President Trump, they believe. And they asked, why in the world, a reporter asked today, I heard the report, and he said, why is it that you're always being shot at? And another reporter answered and said this here. Anytime you try to do something great, you're going to have opposition. And she said, President Trump is trying to rebuild America, trying to bring back certain things that's been restore. And that's why he's being attacked. You cannot do anything in the right way and try not to have any opposition. And when Nehemiah tried to rebuild the wall, he had some opposition, I tell you. There's one guy by the name of Tobiah. Look in the chapter 2, verse 10. When Sanballat the Humler and Tobiah the servants of the Ammonites heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. Notice it. It grieved them. They were upset. It bothered them that this man's come back to restore what's been torn down. It bothered them. It grieved them, the Bible says. You'll find in the New Testament some strange things happen. I think about that man, this demon-possessed in the graveyard. And this man was in terrible shape. He was such bad shape he could not even live with his family. He could not even live with society. They had to put him in a graveyard away from everything and chain him because he was a wild man. And the Lord came there and touched him and healed him and changed his life. The crowd came back out to see him later on, and he was tame as a kitten. You know what the crowd said? Look at verse 16 and 17 of Mark chapter 5. And they come to Jesus and see him that was possessed with a devil and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind. And they were afraid. And they that saw it told them how it befell him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray for him to depart out of the coast. Now here the Lord heals this here man, demon-possessed. What a good thing was done. And the Bible said they came out to see him, and they saw him sitting with his mind was straightened out. He was fully clothed. Evidently they couldn't keep the clothes on him. And so they saw him sitting there like a tame kitten, and they said, we want you to leave our coast. Folks, there are people out there, I tell you, that hates goodness, and they'll do all they can. It grieves them. It makes them upset. And Tobiah, when he heard that they're going to restore the walls, he got all upset. Yeah. Look in Nehemiah 4:1. But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, he was wroth and took great indignation and mocked the Jews. And he mocked the Jews. He didn't commend them for doing a good job. He mocked them. You see, the devil's crowd hate what God's love, and they love what God hates. You cannot serve God and be effective for God and not have opposition, you see. All right? So they got mad. The devil got mad, and so on. Now, Nehemiah wanted to rebuild the wall, but they had opposition. There's one guy by the name of Tobiah. Look in Nehemiah 4:3. Now, Tobiah, the Ammonite, was by him, and he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down the stone wall. Oh, isn't that funny? He's a wise guy. He's making fun of them. Oh my goodness, if they build the wall, it'll fall down like a little tiny fox. And we're told that a fox, their footprints are so light, they don't hardly leave a footprint. And it's not by coincidence that they talk about the fox. Now, if they said if a horse jumps on that wall, it's going to come tumbling down, that'd be a different story. But they said if a little tiny fox jumps up there, it's going to come tumbling down. Yeah, making mockery of them, you see. No one here. Now, notice that here, that's what he said. Now, Tobiah was clever in the way he was insulting God's people. You ever hear the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? I don't know who came up with that stuff, but it's not true. There are some things you can do, and let me tell you, my friend, it hurt you, and you get over with it. But some people can say things to you, and it will stay with you to the day you die. Sticks and stones do hurt. Yeah, they do hurt. They do hurt, you see. They continue to hurt. Tobiah was full of insults. I remember years ago, as a young pastor, I was building a church, Good Shepherd Baptist Church, and I had to work a lot to start with by myself. I had to take it down a 2-story house, and it was a job. It was a job. And I'll never forget, as I worked in the hot sun one day, and I was so tired, a lady about probably further than the parsonage over there walks down to me and she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're building a church." She said, "You doing what?" I said, "I'm building a church." She said, "You never feel it." Isn't that nice? The devil's crowd, you never feel it. She's wrong. We feel that church many a time. In fact, our youth class alone had 90 young people in it. We had to put them in the auditorium. There's no class big enough. And she said, "You never would feel it." Yes, we did many times, over and over again. We had 4 church buses, and our biggest bus ran 70 every Sunday. Our smallest bus ran 40 a Sunday. And so we filled that church with people. Yes, sirree. Now, Tobiah said, "Oh, if you can go ahead and build a wall, it'll come tumbling down." Insulting God's people. Yeah. People like that reminds me of a slimy snake. Anytime you find a slimy snake, there's another snake nearby. When you kill a snake, you better look for the other one. He's somewhere nearby. They go in pairs. And we find that Tobiah, actually, he had a friend also called Sanballat. And he was as bad as he was. You can tell, the Bible says, birds of a feather flock together. If you want to get to know somebody, check out who they're hanging out with. And you'll find out what kind of person they are. They'll find out. Now, they're cut from the same cloth, you see. Now, he says here, what do these feeble Jews do? That's the second question. What are these feeble Jews doing? What are they doing? Yeah. He knows that what they're doing, but he don't like what they're doing, you see. So we ask him. That's a good question to ask. What are these Jews doing? It's a good question we need to ask our church. What are we doing here? Are we playing church? Are we serious about church? What are we doing here, you see? That's a good question to ask. But the fact is, he asked it in a very sarcastic way. What are we doing here? Now, a lot of people, if you ask them, what are we doing here? They'll say, oh, we're worshiping God. Really? Well, That's what the average person would say. We're just worshiping God. Is that what we're doing? There are a lot of people that say that, and they don't come to Sunday school. They don't bring their Bibles. And when I went to school, you had to have your books with you. You had to buy books and had to bring them to school to learn. They don't bring the Bibles. Hey, they don't bother to sing. They just don't care. They say they're worshiping God. Really? They say they're worshiping God, but they don't participate in the giving. And they say they're worshiping God. What they do is go through a meaningless ritual, and that's all it is, you see. What are we doing here? What are these feeble Jews doing? Now, they asked, what are these Jews doing? But these Jews knew what they were doing. They were rebuilding the wall. They had opposition, but they were rebuilding the wall. Now, look here, we see here the opposition. Now, look at the overcomers. We see here 4 important questions that they asked. They were asked 4 questions. And we will be asked the same 4 questions. First question is, will they fortify themselves? Will they join hands and say, yes, sir, we're going to build this wall? What are these feeble Jews doing? What are they doing? Will they fortify themselves? Will they really do this? Remember the game we used to play as children? Red Rover, send Johnny right over. You have a group of people, they're holding hands like this. Did you ever play this kid? And you got somebody over here on the other side, they got a line up, and they said, Red Rover, send Keith right over. And so what does Keith do? He looks for the weakest link in that chain. He knows that the best way to break that chain is to find the weakest link. And my friend, the devil always tries to find the weakest link in every church. He knows, will they fortify themselves? Will they pull together? Will they stand together? Yeah. Always tries to find the weakest link in the chain. And the devil is the same way. Same way. Yeah, we've got a lot of good members in this church here. They're strong. You stand together. God bless you. Thank you so much here for this First Baptist Church. We got some good people. They stand together. Will they fortify? Yes. You can take one thread and snap it like that. 2 threads, you still might be able to snap it. But you put 3 or 4 threads together and you try to snap it and it won't break. That's what God's people, they stand together. And Nehemiah said, oh, what are you doing here? We're going to rebuild the wall. Will they fortify themselves? Will they stand together? Will they pull together? Yeah. In order to be successful in anything we do, we really have to be determined that we're going to give it our all. Yeah. Will they do this? Will they stand together? The second question is, will they sacrifice? I have a saxophone in my office and I play it sometimes. I'm not very good at it, but I could be if I wanted to be bad enough, but I'm not willing to sacrifice the time. Brother Kenny and I was talking about the piano the other day, and he said he wants to really develop the skill in piano. He plays a little bit. And I said, well, you got to want it bad enough. Are you willing to sacrifice the time? Will they fortify themselves? Oh, will they? Yes, they did. Will they sacrifice? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. To be a good athlete, you have to sacrifice time. You have to do that. To start a good business, you have to sacrifice time. They used to have a program on TV I used to love to watch called Pinnacle. And they would find people that started a little business in their carport, and they sacrificed, and they built it into a large business. They sacrificed. They sacrificed, and then we would do that, you see. A church, if we're going to be successful in defeating the devil and rebuilding what God wants to build, hey, we're going to have to be willing. We've got to fortify ourselves and stick together. We've got to sacrifice to be the good church we're supposed to be. Also, the third question he asked was, will they make an end and in a day? Will they start something and then not finish it? Do they have that stickability that they'll stick with it? They'll stick with it. I've seen people that, my goodness, they would be on fire for the Lord, and my, what a great work they would do, and then all of a sudden they just walk off and leave it. We had a youth pastor years ago, and he did a good job. I was told that before he came to our church, he'll last 1 year. They said that wherever he goes, he stays 1 year and he leaves. And he did a good job working with our young people. My goodness, he was doing a great job. And then that 1 year came, guess what? He walked away from it. There are people that way. They don't have that stickability, you see. You have to keep doing what you're doing. A young man came to me the other day, was talking to me about finances, and he wanted me to give him some advice. And I was sharing with him some things I've learned about investments. And I told him, I said, you know what you have to do is constantly just sacrifice and put things in savings. You know, might be $10, might be $100, might be $500. Just keep investing. And I said, every dollar that you put in that savings, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't back out of it. I said, each dollar is like an employee that works for you. And if you fire them, you don't have no employees. But if you keep those employees working for you, you can build up money, build up money, build up money, build up money. But some people can never save because they're always firing their little employees, those $1 bills. You have to have that stickability and stick with it and keep saving and keep saving and keep saving, you see? And then one day you say, boy, I'm so glad I did what I did. I stuck with it. Now I've got some money to retire on. I've got some money that I can live off of. Yeah. Will they stick with it? Next question is, will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burned? This is a hard question. You ever mess around fire where things are burned? It's dirty, it's filthy. Will they get their hands dirty? Are they willing to sacrifice? Will they willing to get into the dirt and do that? Will they? Will they? Well, they did. All 4 questions that was asked, will they? They did. They did. Now, the question is asked to us, will we do these 4 things that was asked of Nehemiah? Will we do these things? You see, the church is full of people that says, I love God. The church is full of people who says, I want to do what's right. I love God. But love to them is a word. But love is more than a word. It's a heartfelt expression in your heart. It's burning within you. It's disturbing that you see the bad things going on. And you want to stick with it. You want to sacrifice. You want to get your hands dirty. You want to get involved. That's what Sanballat did. And the Bible says, and so built we the wall. With all the insults, with all the opposition they had, they just kept working and kept working and kept working. And so built we the wall. You never get anywhere by quitting. You have to stay with it. And you have to sacrifice. And you have to join hands with others. Because one person cannot do it by themselves. You have to all have others to join hands to get the job done. This crowd here tonight, you're that crowd. God bless you. God bless you. We have others we're trying to encourage to be that way. We have some Tobias. They're insulting. They're insulting. We got some Sanballats. They got some questions, but they don't have answers. But God said here, so built we the wall. Can you imagine how it was when they got through and found out and looked and saw all the stones back in place, all the gates are built back, everything is where it's supposed to be? Can you imagine how good they felt? I believe God's going to help us to build the walls here in this community here, and we're going to see some great things. But it's going to take us to join hands, sacrifice. It's going to take us to pull together and be willing to get our hands dirty if we have to. God bless you tonight. I'm so happy that you're here. I wish there was others here to hear what God has for us, but that's between them and God. God cannot use them because they're not willing. They're not willing. Nehemiah's crowd, will they? Yes, they were. Will we? That question is yet to be answered. But I believe it's being answered every day as we come to worship the Lord here at First Baptist Church of Lykesland. God bless you. Let's close in prayer. Our Father,